Hey, I love when it says I'm live because you are too.
Because you are too.
Oh, and we have some echo in the house. Great. So this is for now and later. I can see that you have a lovely view of my dishes behind me. I'll sort of move over just a hair here. Hope everybody is doing well. One of the things that I wanted to look at today as we offer these tasters for today, which happens to be Giving Tuesday, and also for later, whoever's tuning in at different times, is to pull out some different themes from my own work, from Daniel Deardorff's work, from the confluence of those, and from the book, The Other Within, The Genius of Deformity in Myth, Culture, and Psyche, which Daniel originally authored in 2003 and which has just come out in an expanded third edition. It's very exciting, on inner traditions. And so I'm going to read a section about music from here, and we're going to play some music as well. I find my page. Hey na 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 me yo lo na va yo mandara hiru mando da nada yoro me hiele nada nada hiele yono Yondo babno, yondo babno be, yena da no da yene de no do, mono ba yoro, mondo ba yo. Mona la hiere nere nana nere no yondo dei me hire nede. Do you know how it is sometimes when you can't find just what you see? When part of your mind is wide awake and part of it is fast asleep. Do you know how the tides that turn spin round and wash us clean of greed? Yes, it can happen if we would just believe. I'm looking elsewhere through the rocks and brambles in my own time, as I give ear to ground and wind and sense the overarching wild design. And so I wonder what this book really would wish for us today. For it refuses to find my fascinating favorite passage that I tucked away. Here is where we land, and it is at hand, and it's upon me clear to make some sense of why we're here. And perhaps you can add your thoughts in that scrolling place where people place such things. Daniel Deardorff writes, intolerance without breeds intolerance within. I'm being intolerant of this light, so hold on 1 second. Not to make light of that passage at all, because it is huge. Here we are. Intolerance without breeds intolerance within. Anyone feeling that in this particular moment in time in the climate where more intolerance is being voiced? Daniel writes, social castigation on the one hand, and the shame of self-contempt on the other, make the ambivalent battleground of the other within. Here is the unremitting struggle not to redeem or transform one's self-image in the mirror of malicious eyes. That's a phrase from William Butler Yeats that's laced through the book and is such a wise way for me to understand an image for internalized oppression, the mirror of malicious eyes. Who's not seeing me clearly? When are my eyes malicious if I'm not seeing someone else for their essence of who they really are, for their value, for their humanity? Anytime there's ingratitude and this control rather than surrender, what is going on here? Social castigation on the one hand, and the shame of self-contempt on the other, make the ambivalent battleground of the other within. Here is the unremitting struggle not to redeem or transform one's self-image in the mirror of malicious eyes, but to reclaim and integrate all our negative and anomalous faces. The undomesticated, stupid, ugly, deformed, malignant, each arising to its singular orbit in the constellation of what we consider we are. That's just the line, intolerance without breeds intolerance within. There are times when I hear that kind of thing and it makes me want to sing. It's what made me want to be a singer for social justice. And then, you know, I could get very linear and scholarly like and look in the wonderful index of this resource for the word music and see where it brings me. Since my fingers weren't finding it. And guess what? It isn't in here because it's laced throughout. But there's a great story here from Native American tales of no song, the one who had no song, and then made a stew of abundance. And Coyote came and said, "What can I give you for that stew?" And he said, "Well, you know, I would like a song." And he becomes singing wonderfully, but then he doesn't use his song in the right ways in the right places. And so we have that responsibility. What is it that we are given? Here's another piece of what Daniel says. If the message of the speaker, writer, singer, the message of the other to the other is somehow miraculously received by the liminoid mass man, the one who's not really in liminality, with the value and force of living myth, surely then the bright persona will take a hurtful cut. But to do this, one must have that cut already. And more, one must have agreed to wear it, to display and perform that awful and cutting stigma. It's hard to take this out of context of the book, but really what's going on here to me is this reminds me of, if I was wounded in one way already, then I'm susceptible to an offhanded remark, putting salt into that old wound again. You know, just like how do we think of ourselves kindly in this context. And Daniel writes, the song must be performed by the not I, the part of us that is beyond ourselves, in the not knowing and radical uncertainty of the widened and dilated heart. To perform the deep song of the implicate identity, the blessing of the curse, the fruit of asynchrony, one has to say, stay descended and remain in touch with the abysmal void. And of course, we deflect off of that all the time. But as artists, as singers, to come from that place of the duende, the depth, the place where you're holding the paradox of the tragic and the joyous all at one time. That's the fruit of asynchrony. That's the generativity in the tension. One has to stay descended and remain in touch with the abysmal void. And so Deardorff writes, therefore, a hurtful cut is unavoidable in order that imagination be constantly rekindled and wrested away from the wonderful life, from the lie of the unthreatened. The singer remains fallen from grace, reduced to ashes, returned to the world as it is. Returning to the world as it is. I'm going to sing you a song that I wrote when I was asked to stand among the redwoods in this wonderful retreat center in Northern California some years ago. And the folks that ran the center were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the center in these old grove redwoods, the Quaker Center in Ben Lomond, California. So I'll send this out to Walter and Tracy Sullivan, wherever they may be. Not in direct touch right now, but maybe someone will hear this and reconnect us. So you never know in this great wild universe of the wovenness of cyberspace. So I studied some of the teachings of George Fox, and I wasn't raised with Quaker teachings, and I wanted to learn. And then I also was reading the poem that David Wagner collected, which was an indigenous poem from, I believe, the Northwest, but I'm not sure which tribe, where it talks about if one is lost in the forest, stand still. You might remember the Hansel and Gretel story from Grimm's, where, they try to trace their path back with breadcrumbs. And of course, the critters come and they eat the breadcrumbs, and then they're lost. Because they had already lost. They came from a civilized village. They had already lost the skills that a tracker might have, the way that somebody who lives on the land, who farms or who walks or who tends the land, who learns from the land, who listens, who knows, can feel a way and a path by being told by one's environment. These are the other things that make me want to sing. So this is the song that came. It's called Here Still. And I think I'll grab a drum for a little accompaniment. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. Alive in one place, fall open and receive grace. Take in all that is, be still in the light that lives. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. Each heart, every soul, all glorious to the whole. Come clear among friends, discern that which never ends. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. If you're lost on your way and night has recovered day, stand still, seek peace, be led by the redwood trees. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still. Here I am, still with all there is. Here, still with all there is. Here, still with all there is. Here, still. Thank you. There's a card on my wall that says, I get up, I walk, I fall down. Meanwhile, I keep dancing. Appears to be a quote from Rabbi Hillel. So much to share. We're going to do another one of these streamings with more surprises and readings at 5 o'clock today and at 7. And these are all part of Giving Tuesday. And Audrey DeMola is on the dash here. She's going to post a link in the chat. Even if you're seeing this after the 29th of November, we are continuing a month-long campaign to raise $10,000 to keep Daniel Deardorff's legacy work going, his stories, songs, teachings, some of which you just heard. Also, our crew of people who are doing this work, fanning out with different music and myth events through Songwriting Works, Educational Foundation, Community Story Nights, and the Mythsinger Legacy Project. You can learn more at mythsingerlegacy.org. Thanks for coming by. Subscribe, and we'll hope to see you soon. Be well.